Hey, welcome to my podcast, and I just got a question I want to share with you and then talk about the answer here. From Joel on MySpace says this: how do you start a youth band? Should there be some level of musical vocabulary before someone can join up? Here's what I think about all this. Obviously, there's got to be some sort of musical tendency or leaning or passion when it comes to people wanting to be in a youth band. It seems like these days there's definitely a lot of desire to be on the stage for people. So, you know, I've been at one of the auditions for the worship band in our youth group at our church, and I saw how many people lined up that wanted to be up there, and they would go up and sing their song to some track. And honestly, like, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how this person ever thought they could be a part of the worship band, but they just have a desire, maybe one, to worship God, but also just to be on the stage. You know, it's an exciting thing to be on the stage. So yeah, there does have to be, and you maybe haven't even considered the idea that there could be an audition, that you set up auditions to see who could be in the worship band. I think that's a good thing to do. It helps you see what they're capable of, and kind of puts them in a place where they can show what their heart is for worship and how they're going to respond on a stage and that type of thing. Maybe open auditions and stuff. But I think one of the things that I've thought about this is that you're always going to have some people in your band that are really good and some who are not really good. Because I've seen it. I've been on the youth staff, volunteer youth staff at our church for about 13 years now, and I've seen the students come and go. Our particular youth group has junior high and high school students together, so the 7th grader comes in, the senior just left, the drummer who's been drumming for the last 5 years, he's amazing, he just graduates, the 7th grader comes in and he's the only drummer that we have, and so he starts playing and it just is horrible. But you can tell he's got some passion, he definitely has some rhythm, but gets off from time to time, and but he starts working. And then I've seen that 7th grader become the senior a few years later and be that guy that has led, that has become accomplished and has become passionate about worship. And so it's awesome to see how people grow in that setting. So you need to kind of create an atmosphere where students can grow, because you're always going to be losing students and gaining new students, and so you're going to always have people that are needing to be trained up. And I think one of the ways you can do that in a practical sense is you can have more people on the stage than what we're actually hearing in the audience. You can actually put a couple of guys on the stage, maybe one's on the piano, a girl's playing the guitar, and both of them have a place where they can hear on the stage, but you don't put them in the house mix. Nobody else can hear them playing, but they're back there playing with the band. They even know that they're not in the house mix, but they're actually practicing and they're playing and they're getting a feel for what it's like to be up there and the kind of pressure that's involved in memorizing songs and playing and all that stuff, and you're getting them the feel without anybody else having to be distracted by their mistakes and all that type of thing. We've even had in our youth group, and this is kind of a no-no. If you're not a musician, you wouldn't necessarily know this, but you're not supposed to have more than one bass player in a band. You can have several guitarists, you could have a couple different keyboardists, you can have a bunch of different singers, but you're only supposed to have one bass player. But in our band, I've never seen this before, we actually had two bass players for a while because one was being trained up, and it worked out really great because now he's actually the bass player, and he took the spot when the other guy left. And so it's, you just got to find ways to train students up. And again, you can get the guys who are really talented, or the older guys or girls, to train up those who are new. You're teaching them to lead, you're teaching them to mentor, and you're growing up your next band. I think one thing also that's important when we look at who's going to be in a band and who's not going to be in a band is we look at Scripture and what does Scripture say. And the Scripture is pretty clear about the type of people that were chosen to minister before the Lord, people that were called to be musicians in the house of the Lord. In 1 Chronicles 25, verses 6 through 8, has a great passage. You got to go check this out. It's an awesome passage that will help you train up your students. You should teach this to your students because it talks about how all the musicians were under the direction of their fathers which is just a powerful thing that they need to be under under leadership. And even the fathers then were under the king, which that's the King of Kings. And also then it says in verse 7 that all the musicians were accomplished musicians who were trained to do this. So it is important to understand that, and to help your students understand that we are aiming at excellence. We're not always going to be perfect. We're not always going to have the best musicians, but the goal is to be excellent. So you're going to have to encourage your students, hey, rehearsal is important. You're going to have to practice. You got to be practice at anything. If you want to be good at it, you got to be practiced up. And it also shows when you practice how much it means to you, really. If it's important to your students and if they value it, then they will practice and they'll put their hearts into it. So anyways, hopefully that is helpful for you as you decide who to put in your band, and we'll check you out next time on my next podcast.